Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast. Today is April 15th. This is episode 231. My name is Eric Peterson. Happy to be with you, and I'm joined by Mr. Daniel Garcia.
Well, Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty great. The weather's turning up here in Utah, and I can send my kids outside, and it makes me very happy.
Do they stay outside or do they want to come back in?
They do, and we enjoy going on family walks together in the evening, so we like the nicer weather. Of course, in Utah, it's gonna get super cold again this week, and then jump into the so only a little bit of nice weather.
So today is also tax day, and I'm going to throw this out there. So I've been doing at Ortus, we have a fun house, and I've been putting dad jokes in. I got a dad joke calendar, and today was a dad joke about taxes. It says, I don't do my own taxes. I'm just not into it.
Unfortunately.
Well, we won't include that as a regular feature. It's tax day. And if you haven't done your taxes yet, finish this episode, then go do them.
Dad Joke Corner brought to you by Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Well, let's jump into some Ortus news. Into the box, just around the corner, the end of the month, really. I guess it's technically May, but consider it April.
No, workshops are April 30th. I feel like I should know this since I'm giving a workshop. April 30th is the workshop day.
Okay, it is end of the month. So we only have 20 on-site tickets left. So if you've been kicking the can down the road, procrastinating, stop what you're doing. Go to intothebox.org and order your tickets. Workshops only available for our on-site attendees. It looks like we have 3 spots left for our getting started with BoxLang. And we have some other great options to consider as well. Team packs are available. That's the only way to get early bird pricing right now. Buy one, get one half off, or buy 2, get 1 free. And if you are not going to be able to make it in person, we're really sad. This is going to be an epic Into the Box, but you can get our virtual ticket. Today is the last day to get early bird online ticket pricing. We'll throw that link in our show notes. If you don't buy today, you're up to the normal virtual price, but you can still pick those up all the way up to the start of the conference.
Here, our normal virtual price is pretty reasonable considering all the content you get. It's just if you want to be even more reasonable.
All of these prices are very reasonable for a conference, so head over to those links. Again, we hope to see you there in person, and we'll tell you there's a big special reason why we'll get to later in this podcast.
Can't wait.
We have some product updates. Daniel, do you want to tell us about CommandBox 6.2?
I do. CommandBox 6.2.0, that 0.0 is very important, is released. We've got 9 tickets with several bug fixes and some new features, including the Jakarta servlet support, which is important for BoxLang and ACF 2025, and Lucy 7. Some new changes with those that we need to make sure that CommandBox supports. One of my new favorite features is a server warm-up URLs. So that way, when you start the site, you can automatically kick off some URLs to hit till I warm up the site. So that when you start the site, it'll warm up the site. So if you start your site and you need to run some initialization routines or do whatever, it'll kick off these server warm-up URLs and you'll be back in business. A lot of times when you have to start your site manually, then you have to manually remember to go back and click those links. Well, here you just automate it off for you. And if you want more information, we'll go ahead and put that into the chat.
The server warm-up URLs, all I can think of with that is Hibernate, ORM. How when you hit your site, it has to crawl all the different entities and metadata and load everything, and you just want that to be done before anybody actually has to hit it.
Or if you've got a lot of cache queries where you want to make sure they get initialized in cache before anyone does anything.
Yep, that's another good idea. So that's CommandBox 6.2 out right now. Next, let's talk about the ColdBox Vite plugin. So Vite is, we're talking JavaScript land. It's a module bundler. You know what? I haven't done enough JavaScript to know the terms they use now. What I do know is if I want modern JavaScript frameworks like Vue and React to run, Vite's the way I choose to do it because it's super fast. In fact, the other day I was doing some development on the site that used ColdBox Elixir, the old Webpack bundler, and I'd save a change and it would take, maybe a second to reload and compile. And I was like, this is garbage. Vite does this in 10 milliseconds. What's going on? So I almost ripped it out and put Vite in, and then I realized that wasn't my job at the moment. So next time. But the ColdBox Vite plugin is the easiest way to hook it into your ColdBox site so you can add in modern JavaScript with your existing ColdBox server rendered site. It has support for the latest Vite and all the goodies there. You can also get started quickly with our template. Using the CommandBox, you can do a ColdBox create app and pass in cb template -vite. Get everything you need to get started. I got to do some work with Quick version 11.2. I got to meet with a client, and as usual, performance issues in Quick come down to not eager loading relationships. So eager loading is the idea that if you have a blog post and you want to get the author to get the author's name, you could mistakenly load, 20, 40, 50 blog posts in one database request and then proceed to do a 50 single database request to load the author for each post as you're looping through it. Eager loading instead will go grab all those at once and stitch them together for you. So it's huge on performance, but also can be easy to miss. Well, I finally jumped in and added a way to disable all lazy loading in development. You can do it per environment so that you're in development and it will throw an exception at you and tell you like, hey, you tried to lazy load this, go eager load this, and help you avoid those performance problems before they even get to production. So that's out in
And
Quick
is that
11
available
too.
now?
It is.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so this week's episode is sponsored by Ortus Solutions. Imagine that. We want to feature CommandBox Pro. If you haven't heard of CommandBox Pro, it's CommandBox with a bunch of other really cool things that are definitely worth paying for. Obviously, the most important one is support, SLAs, and trust from Ortus. You get the service manager modules so that if you've got a server set up and you want it to start automatically, it will do that. Treat it just like any other service. You do get a ForgeBox Pro account included with every CommandBox Pro license you purchase. So if you want to do your own private packages and share that within your team, you can do all sorts of cool things like that. Multi-server features. You can do CommandBox multi-site, which allows you to it's like doing virtual hosting, where if you want to have one CommandBox instance and host, multiple sites, dozens of sites for whatever, you can do that. We also have the automatic JDK management and manage your versions on each specific application you deploy, as well as SNI support for multiple certs, cell certs on the same IP address. So if you want to go check that out, go to the website for CommandBox Pro, and we'll put that in the link.
Let's go over to our BoxLang Corner. BoxLang 1.0 RC3 has been launched. Let's tell you about some of the headline features here. We kind of teased them last podcast, but performance, we've tested the runtime against all our major libraries. It's faster than Adobe 2021, 23, 25. It's give or take with Lucy depending on the test. So great work to the entire BoxLang team for just iterating on that performance. The BXORM module is out, so you can integrate with Hibernate for all you poor people that still have to do that. That's obviously my opinion. I should have prefaced that. Virtual thread support. This is a fun feature that I had to look up for Java 21, I believe, but just a lighter weight thread that can be backgrounded similar to virtual memory so that when you do IO tasks in the thread, it doesn't lock up the entire CPU thread. Scheduler. So if you've ever used the ColdBox scheduler, which is incredibly powerful and intuitive, you can do all of that in BoxLang. In fact, that replaces kind of the crazy scheduler UI that you can find in Adobe and Lucy. And my favorite little feature from here, you can run it from the CLI. So you can, without starting up your application, go to BoxLang schedule and then pass in a scheduler. You don't have to run cron. You don't have to do anything like that. It will just run forever and run your tasks for you. So then you can use all the nice BoxLang scheduler methods, like saying run every day or every workday at 8 a.m. instead of having to figure out the random cron incantation for that. So that's BoxLang 3 out now. You can go, please test your site because this is the last RC before the stable release.
When's the stable release going to happen?
As hinted earlier, Into the Box 2025, we will be launching the stable release of BoxLang 1.0. So you want to be there, Into the Box 2025, whether you're joining online or in person. This is going to be the conference that gets you up and running on BoxLang to start supercharging your development fast and easy. And now's the time to grab a BoxLang plan. This is in your future. You want to save some money on it. They're 25% off until into the box. So grab that, and we'll see you there May 1st for the BoxLang stable release.
And then one more last important bit of BoxLang news. The virtual machines are now on AWS. So if you've been wanting to play with BoxLang and you've been waiting to for it to appear on AWS as a VM, it's there. You can do it. We're going to go ahead and post the link and go play with it.
Yeah, we announced last week, or last podcast rather, that we had them up on Azure, and now they are up on AWS. How about some CFML updates, Daniel? Do you want to tell us about the security updates that came out this last couple weeks?
So they're a big one for both Adobe and Lucy. I think it was pretty much the similar exploit. There are security updates available for Adobe CF. We'll get the links there in the chat. Similar for Lucy, it's where if you've got a certain condition on the server, somebody can take advantage of an exploit where they can execute code remotely. Now, if Lucy did say that if you're on a shared hosting environment, this is a little bit more of an issue than if you're hosting privately. But if you go through and kind of read through the docs and kind of see what it handles, you have to kind of decide if that's something you want to account for. Now, with Lucy, if you just want to update to the latest Lucy, I don't think there's any issues with that. Just do it. Why not? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it was something about being able to write bytecode directly to the server and then Lucy would run it, which I feel like if somebody can write files directly to your server, you might have a bigger problem. But
I was talking to Brad about it too when it came out, and it's like if you can do this first step, then you can do the second step. But most people don't allow you to do the first step, so you're probably okay anyway. But definitely worth reviewing your code base and updating, or just update anyway. And for Lucy, you can also add an environment file to lock it down even further, especially if you're using CommandBox or Lucy environment variables. Another big news is their 6.2.1.12 RC final release candidate is out for you to play with and test with and check out and make sure it all works the way you're hoping it works.
Yeah, I'm looking at their server changelog for that. It looks like a lot of bug fixes, not really any new enhancements. It's just kind of what you expect at this point in an RC. Give that a run on your Lucy servers and let them know if anything's still missing.
Post the link for that. And I think there's some more blog posts or new blog posts we want to talk about this week. Why don't you take us through those, Eric?
Sure, let's highlight a few of them. The first one, let's talk about PDF generation, bloat, and optimization. This is a blog post by James Moberg, comparing and contrasting a few different ways to generate PDFs using CFML servers. A good old CF document, CF HTML to PDF, and WK HTML to PDF, which if you haven't heard of that one is actually a separate utility ran via the command line that can also generate web pages based on WebKit technologies. So you can go and check out all of his code and how he runs it. I mean, the answer is WebKit HTML to PDF is faster and smaller file size and seems like the clear winner to me.
Have a tag for it. You can't just say CF blah, blah, blah.
But you say that, except there is a WK HTML to PDF module on ForgeBox that you can install, a wrapper to use that service written by in-league team, Sam Knowlton and friends. So if you're missing the I want one tag to do this, go check out that module.
I was just setting you up. I was setting you up.
I remember our team, over a decade ago, quickly found that CF document was not going to cut it and used that WK HTML to PDF. And I feel like this falls right in James's wheelhouse, as one of his last blog posts we talked about was about using native command line tools instead of Cold Fusion tags, if you remember that.
That's right.
So
this
just falls right into his wheelhouse. Yep. Thank you for that. And yeah, use WK HTML to PDF probably. We have another one from Ben Nadal about HTTP GET and HTTP POST are sufficient for me in Cold Fusion. So HTTP in browsers has two verbs, get or post. Your forms can get or post. But there are more verbs defined by the HTTP specification, put, patch, delete, options, some other ones as well, that APIs tend to use and that applications can use as well, kind of spoofing it. ColdBox makes this really easy so that you can use all these different verbs and have, in my opinion, all this comes down to opinion, a really nicely tuned API, something that looks really nice as far as the URL structure goes, organized. Ben here argues that, you know what? The browser can't handle it, basically. Extra mental weight that you can't use. It's kind of a leaky abstraction because your get might mutate a last access date, or your delete might just be modifying a flag instead of actually deleting. So why are we pretending this? So you get a lot of you can read for his opinions. He makes a lot of good points, and I think the biggest point is, browsers can't actually do put, patch, or delete or anything besides get and post. So everything after that's kind of faking it. But we also live in a world where APIs are king, and those can support all those verbs. If you haven't caught on from the way I've been describing it, I love all the HTTP verbs. In fact, I have a video I want to throw in there. That's one of my favorite talks that I've ever seen, which is called Cruddy by Design.
Yeah.
By Adam Wathan. So we'll throw that in there. Obviously, this comes down to your organization and how you want to structure your application, right? These HTTP verbs there to help you describe how you want to be organized, right? One of Ben's posts was, if you need a router, I think you've overcomplicated things. And for me, like, the router is where I live in ColdBox apps. Like, I love that I can go to one file and see everything that happens in the app. So it's a bit of a difference of how you want to structure your apps. And as he said, one's not right and the other wrong, but you can definitely look at both and think, how do I want to structure my app? So we'll give you a little bit of both sides here.
Fair. I don't think Ben uses ColdBox. And so
No, I think he has his own self-built framework, if any.
And I will say, early on when I started with Ortus, I've been at Ortus almost 4 years now. And early on, I was working on a project and with you, Eric, and you showed me this Cruddy by Design video, and it blew my mind. As in, of course, we should do it this way. Of course, this makes sense.
Yeah, the fun thing is, like, I love that talk, and I try to build things that way, and then sometimes I don't because it doesn't make sense. So, like, I think Ben had one about that where if you're doing a bulk operation, a bulk delete, you can't pass a body in the delete statement, so you do a post. That's not ideal. That's what you do. Sometimes you make your code work. It's fine.
Well, that's fair.
All of our code's held together with duct tape and string anyways.
Best practices are best, except when they're not.
There you go.
Okay, now we do have another blog article, Getting the Client's IP Address Using Lucy and Confusion. This is by Gergi Alexander. Basically going through the post showing different ways of extracting that IP address. And whether it's, using the get HTTP request data, use the CGI variable, but kind of goes a little bit further because sometimes your server is behind a load balancer or a proxy. And so you can't just grab the IP address because you're grabbing the IP address of that middle server. And so you may need to look for things like X forward for, because a lot of them will pass that along. And so he shows an example of how to grab that. And then there's a couple others that he talks about, including if you're using XReal IP, some load balancers, Nginx, use that instead. Or if you have a CF connecting IP key, some use that for Cloudflare. And so really some nice examples of all the different scenarios you might run into for grabbing that real IP address and not the proxied IP address. I know a while back, Gavin created something on ForgeBox to kind of say get real IP that kind of did this, but Gregory went way beyond what Gavin did, and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Basically, if you use this, it'll catch every IP in all these different scenarios we talked about. And so it's a nice little utility there he's got, or example he's got.
Yeah. As described, it really depends on your technology stack, right? If you got Cloudflare in there, Fastly in there, something, Nginx, what do you have and what key it's using? We have a utility that, I've used because I felt like it was good enough right inside CB Security. On the CB security model, you can call get real IP and it will go and grab like the cluster client IP or the X forwarded for, and then finally the CGI variable. But it doesn't have those, Cloudflare ones, the Fastly ones. So you might need to implement your own kind of function based on what is in your technology stack.
That's the one I was talking about. That's on ForgeBox. Gavin put that together.
Yeah, he did, and now it might still be a ForgeBox module, but it is now part of CB Security as well. So you might not even need to install anything else.
I kind of feel like we should look at the other examples from Gregory and maybe add some of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the trickiest part will be deciding the order, but then again, you're probably not using Fastly and Cloudflare, right? So
Yep. And so if you're testing for it to exist, it doesn't exist, you ignore it. So yeah, you're probably not using multiple. And if you are, then you got issues, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This is not all of the CFML posts that were through this week, but we only have time to highlight a few. So let's move on. We still have some events that we want to cover. As mentioned, Into the Box workshops, April 30th, conference May 1st and 2nd. BoxLang 1.0 stable is launching. You want to be there in Washington, D.C. 20 tickets left. Go buy them. Come visit us. We're excited for it. And for all of those that have already bought their tickets who are speaking, we're very excited to see you there. It's going to be a blast. CF Camp, a little bit after that, May 22nd and 23rd. This is in Munich, Germany, a new hotel, but still in Munich. You can check it out at cfcamp.org. I know Luis is going to be there. I believe Brad is going to be there as well. So we have some Ortus representation and some great talks on BoxLang. We hope to see you at CF Camp if you are on that side of the world. It's a little easier to get to Munich than it is to DC. And finally
we
coming up
got
in September,
Adobe Cold Fusion Summit 2025, September 22nd, 23rd in Las Vegas, with I believe the 21st and or the 24th being certification class days where you can go in and get certified.
And do we know if Ortus is doing a workshop around there? We usually do.
I haven't heard yet. It still might be a little bit way out. I think I imagine we're probably waiting to get through ITB and just keep all our focus there first before we look beyond ITB. And then of course CF Camp, Luis and Brad will be there a few weeks later.
And there is a CF Camp pre-conference workshop with Ortus that you can join.
Oh, absolutely. They'll be talking about BoxLang.
Yep, it's getting started with the BoxLang runtimes with Brad, or Zero to Hero with ColdBox and BoxLang with Luis.
Excellent. Okay, that's probably it for our episode today.
Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. We are grateful to all of those individuals and companies supporting our open source initiatives like CommandBox, ForgeBox, and ColdBox, all the other great boxes out there, funding the cloud infrastructure that ForgeBox runs on in our community site. You can support us at patreon.com/OrtusSolutions. You can see all of the sponsors that we have now at ortussolutions.com/about-us/sponsors.
So don't forget, we do have annual memberships available. You pay for the year and save 10%, which is great for everybody, not just businesses. Bronze packages, you get a ForgeBox Pro account and the CFcast subscription as a perk. You get your profile badge community website, private access on the community website, and a private channel on Box Team Slack.
Thanks everyone for joining. We will see you. Let's see. In a couple weeks, it's going to be BoxLang Into the Box time. Are we going to be podcasting from Into the Box, Daniel?
We're figuring that out. If we do, it's going to be a special podcast. And normally, our next normal scheduled podcast would be May 6th, because we are going to do the first and third Tuesdays of the month, not an every other week thing, first and third Tuesday. So we haven't finalized the box or the Into the Box schedule, but we're hoping to do something. Maybe a one-off, but
you don't have to worry about hearing us, because you're going to be Into the Box. You're going to be coming to our sessions. You're going to be hanging out at Happy Box. You're going to be full of all the time that you would want with Daniel and myself. Probably
too
more.
Much. Hear us, see us, smell us. It'll all be good.
Hopefully not smell us.
Hopefully not.
All right, everybody. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.